What's up, Dub Nation? Welcome back to the DubsIn4 Podcast. This is episode 12. Today is October 7th, 2018, and today we're going to be talking about my sort of NBA power rankings / kind of like a tier list for this upcoming season. Given that the fact that the season is it's less than 2 weeks away at this point. We have this week, we'll have an episode next week, and then that following Tuesday, I believe, the season starts. So, yeah, we're counting down the days. It's only 9 days left now until the season starts, and we're kind of ready for it. Nothing's really gone on lately, just the whole Jimmy Butler thing, and he has still not been traded as of right now. But the Heat did get really close in their deal this morning. Talks fell apart. Basically, they shared medical information and stuff like that, and then the Timberwolves asked for more. And the Heat were like, no. So, we'll see if anything does begin to happen. Look, Jimmy Butler was almost traded to the Heat, but it didn't quite get there. So he still might go to Miami. Also, we've heard that the Clippers are making a push. The Rockets are still trying to do something, but we don't know what kind of assets they have to give up. So we'll just have to see. But there's a couple teams that are still in the Jimmy Butler sweepstakes. But anyway, when that does happen, that'll almost definitely change the order of this power rankings here. Whichever team gets him will likely go up, and then the Wolves will probably go down, just depending on what the trade looks like. But that's what we can assume will happen. So, but right now, I actually have these teams separated into tiers. And they're roughly ordered within each tier, but not like strictly. Basically, I just didn't want to rank them one by one. I wanted to have them kind of blocked out. So that they're each, you have like a sort of rough idea of like, okay, these teams are close to each other, these teams are close to each other, stuff like that. So we're going to go bottom to top, worst teams up to the best, and talk about, go to the tiers and talk about the order and just a brief reason of why I think the team is where they are. So here we go. My last tier is the Nope tier. Basically, I only have 4 teams down here, but these are dumpster fires. I think they're going to be the 4 worst teams in the league. They have basically the worst rosters top to bottom. They're going to be in the lottery for sure. No prayer ever whatsoever of making the playoffs. So, as the number 30, I have the Kings. I think I mentioned this before, but I think that they're the worst roster in the league. They pretty much have nobody. De'Aaron Fox and Marvin Bagley, 2 really young guys. They can both be good in a couple of years, but right now they're still very young, learning the ropes of the NBA, starting to develop a little bit. Kings have no stars. Zach Randolph is still there, but he's really old. And yeah, they pretty much have nobody. So Kings, I have them as the worst team in the league. Number 29, I have the Orlando Magic. I just don't see it for this roster. Again, they have nobody really good. Young guys like Aaron Gordon, Jonathan Isaac, and Mo Bamba now. I do like Bamba a lot, but he probably won't have a huge impact for his rookie season. He's going to take a couple of years to kind of figure out how the NBA works. But I have the Magic down here. They keep getting these high draft picks. If they could get a point guard, that'd be nice. But as of right now, they have no point guards. Next, I have the New York Knicks. This is because Kristaps Porzingis will still be hurt for probably at least the first half of the season. There have been rumors they're going to keep him out the whole year, which I think would be stupid. But we do have the Knicks here. If they had Porzingis, they'd be a lot better if he was healthy. But they don't, so they have Kevin Knox developing. They still have Tim Hardaway Jr. Other than that, not really too many players on this roster. They're not great. 27, I have the Atlanta Hawks. Again, with the youth, there's a pattern here where all these teams down here have young players that are developing, but right now they're not really going to be going anywhere in the NBA. So we have Trae Young, John Collins, Taurean Prince, other guys that drafted Omari Spellman, Kevin Huerter, stuff like that. So this team has a lot of really nice young players. They can be good in a few years if these guys pan out the way they're supposed to. But right now the Hawks are not very good. But I will be watching them just to see how Trae Young develops. It'll be fun to watch him play. Interesting to see what goes on there. But yes. Okay, so that's my bottom tier. Just those 4 teams. And then this next tier is a lot bigger. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams here. Yeah, so 8 teams up here. I've called them, if a lot goes right, these teams could maybe sneak into the playoffs. I don't see it happening for pretty much any of these teams down here, but basically if they exceed expectations by a lot, if other teams get injured, these teams could slide up into the playoffs. Basically, this is what happened to the Pacers last year, where after the Paul George trade, a lot of people thought, oh, the Pacers aren't going to be good anymore. All they have is Victor Oladipo, and then Oladipo turned out to be great, and the Pacers were a lot better than anybody thought they could be. So I feel like that could happen. There's at least a small percentage chance of that happening with all of these teams. So kicking this off at number 26, I have the Suns. I think the Suns are going to be better than some people think they are. I have them as the 5th worst team in the league. A lot of people have them bottom 2, bottom 3. They still have, they've drafted DeAndre Ayton now. They still have all their other top draft picks. They've had Devin Booker, Josh Jackson, signed Trevor Ariza. He'll be able to help a little bit. This roster has gotten a little bit better. I just think they need a couple years to develop and maybe one more draft pick, get like a point guard or somebody to handle the ball a little bit better than Devin Booker can, and then they'll kind of be good to go. I think in 2 or 3 years we'll see the Suns really starting to come together. But for this year, I do think they have a shot at winning more games than they're projected. But we'll just have to see. 25, I have the Bulls. They've moved down just a little bit because of Lauri Markkanen's injury. I believe it's 6 to 8 weeks. He'll be out with an elbow strain or something, elbow sprain. So yeah, with Markkanen gone for the first 2 months of the year, they're going to struggle. He's one of their best players. But yeah, they still have Zach LaVine. Who else? I don't know. Chris Dunn still. But yeah, they've got this whole youth movement going on still. They've also signed Jabari Parker. That was it. Their big free agent was Jabari Parker, coming over on a 2-year deal. The Bulls could be good. They've got a lot of young guys. In a weak Eastern Conference, if a lot goes right, they could potentially make it as a 7th or an 8th seed. Just because those last 2 slots are kind of wide open right now. We don't really know who's going to sneak into the playoffs. Especially how, this Jimmy Butler situation resolves. That could change that as well, depending if he goes to Miami, somewhere else in the East. But yeah, Bulls, I think they still do have an outside chance, but we'll have to see with them. 24, I have the Brooklyn Nets. They finally have their draft picks back. The Nets just have a top to bottom, pretty much an average roster, maybe a little below average, but they've got all these, these nice young NBA players. They're all not bad. They have some halfway decent guys. Spencer Dinwiddie's pretty good. Karis LeVert, Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, Jarrett Allen, all these guys they've got. Who in the offseason they've got what's his name? Kenneth Faried as well. I believe he's on the team this year. Jared Dudley. All these guys are okay. Nobody really insane. D'Angelo Russell's probably their best player. But yeah, the Nets just play hard. They're fun to watch. They play hard. They give everything they've got. They just need a way to get star players. And with this whole thing, they may still end up getting Jimmy Butler. Any of these other guys in free agency next summer. They have a lot of cap space. I know that Kyrie committed to Boston, so they probably will not get him. But, any of these other free agents next summer, they have 2 max slots. So if they get Jimmy Butler and somebody else, they could potentially go way up. And if they do trade for Jimmy Butler somehow, that could take them up a lot as well. But I have the Nets down here for now. 23, I have the Charlotte Hornets. Kemba Walker and a bunch of guys who were getting paid way too much. Yeah, Kemba's the only good player on this team. All-star caliber player, getting paid $12 million a year to barely miss the playoffs and carry his team to 35 wins. I don't know. I just don't know with the Hornets. They really have no direction right now. They just need to get out from all these terrible contracts. And right now they should trade Kemba in his contract year because they just need to get something back for him. I don't know if he wants to stay in Charlotte. I don't know if they even have the money to make it happen. But they do need to get something for Kemba Walker. I hope they would trade him in his contract year, see if they can get at least, a draft pick or something back for him. But they just need to kind of wait this last 1 or 2 years, get out from all their terrible contracts, and then kind of start to rebuild a little bit. But right now, the Hornets are not great. They're just paying a lot of money for a very mediocre roster. 22, I have the Memphis Grizzlies. Mike Conley, Marc Gasol healthy again. They should be able to be at least better than they were last year. No longer Tyreek Evans, but with their other guys healthy, they shouldn't need him as much. They have Jaren Jackson Jr., a couple other young players. Tyler Ennis, I believe. One of the Ennises. Dylan Brooks, something like that. But, yeah, they'll be okay. They'll be better than they were last year, just by having Marc Gasol and Mike Conley back. I do think they have an outside shot at least knocking on the door of the playoffs. The West is so competitive that they almost certainly won't make it in, but they can be at least an annoying team to face rather than just a pushover like they were last year when they were just blatantly tanking near the end of the season. But yeah. Next up, speaking of blatantly tanking, we have the Dallas Mavericks, who did that last year. This year, however, they are not. They are kind of a new-look team. Added Luka Doncic as well as DeAndre Jordan. Another year of Dennis Smith Jr., Harrison Barnes. This roster is starting to come together. In a competitive Western Conference, they shouldn't be able to make the playoffs, but they'll at least be much better than they were last season. And maybe a contender at that 8 or 9 seed spot. They can maybe sneak in, depending on how the Trailblazers, Pelicans, if the Timberwolves trade Jimmy Butler away, Nuggets if they start to flop for whatever reason. The Mavericks could end up sneaking into that last spot, but I doubt it. They'd have to have a lot go right, not just on their part, but another teams to have a lot go wrong. So we'll see. At 20, I have the LA Clippers. Part of me doesn't want to put them this high, and I probably actually shouldn't have. I kind of want to knock them down a little bit. But the Clippers here, they have a lot of just like okay players, like these C+, maybe B- players. Patrick Beverley's all right. They've drafted 2 young guys, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jerome Robinson. They have Marcin Gortat now, I believe. Just all these okay NBA players, no stars on this roster. Tobias Harris is the closest thing they have. He can, give you 20 points a night. Lou Williams is okay, off the bench, giving you about 20. But yeah, the Clippers are kind of just a weird team. I don't really know what to think of them. They kind of need another just like an explosive star. They have guys who can score the ball, but they need guys who can play make and space the floor and pass. They're going to be okay, but without an amazing player on this roster, without a star player, they won't be able to go too far. 19, this also might be a little high for them, but I have the Cleveland Cavaliers. I just believe in Kevin Love kind of going back to his Minnesota days, giving us a little bit of a vintage K-Love performance. They have Rodney Hood back, J.R. Smith still, even though he's J.R. Smith. But the Cavs, they should at least be fun to watch with Colin Sexton, rookie point guard. They'll at least be interesting to see how this team plays in the absence of LeBron James. But I consider them another outside shot to make the playoffs in the East. If things go wrong with teams above them, if they, teams above them, because those last 2 spots, like I mentioned, are kind of wide open. In just a second, I'm going to be talking about some of these other teams, but I have the Cavs sitting just outside, and I think that's where they're going to end up. But they could be a lot worse than this, or they could be not a lot better, but at least a little better. But we'll have to see. Okay, so that's the end of that tier. This next one I have is playoff contenders. There are, I believe, 8 teams here as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams here that I think are at least that could make the playoffs. That actually they have a very good shot of making the playoffs. So I have 18 teams left to talk about. 16 of them make the playoffs. So 2 of these teams will not. At the very least, 2 of these teams will not make the playoffs out of these top 18 here. And so, yeah, we're just going to move into that. Probably 2 of those teams will be from, actually, there's only 8 Eastern Conference teams in this top 18, and 10 of them are Western Conference. So, just going by this, these bottom 2 Western Conference teams will be the ones who miss. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. We're going to talk about this now. 18, I have the Detroit Pistons. Year 2 of Blake Griffin. Well, I guess year 1.5, because they had him for half a season. They now have Dwayne Casey as their head coach. A couple other guys. But this team, I don't know. I don't really know what to think of the Pistons. Blake Griffin is still a really good player. And they've added a better coach than Stan Van Gundy, that's for sure. Dwayne Casey was coach of the year last year, led the Raptors to a great record, and then promptly was fired. But yeah, we have, I don't know, it'll just be interesting to see what Casey can do with this Pistons team, and if what he can bring out of Blake Griffin here, as he's kind of getting older, up there in age. His athleticism will start to leave him a little bit. But in a weak Eastern Conference, the Pistons are contenders for that 7 or 8 playoff spot. As I've mentioned, these last 2 teams are kind of up in the air. But yeah, I'll just move into this other team here. I have the Miami Heat. Now, this could all change if they do end up getting Jimmy Butler. If they do, they go way up. I would consider them playoff locks if they do end up getting Jimmy. I guess that depends on what they do have to trade for him, but he would be better than anybody that's on this roster right now. So I feel like getting him would greatly improve their chances. But as of right now, I have the Heat at number 17. I think they're an okay team. They're kind of similar to the who was I talking about? The Clippers, where they don't really have a star player. The closest thing that the Heat have is probably Hassan Whiteside, even though he's really inconsistent and doesn't seem to want to be in Miami. Dwayne Wade for another year. Goran Dragic is okay. He was actually an all-star last season, but he's getting up there in age as well. And yeah, whether he deserved all-star last season is a debate in itself. But yeah, we have the Heat at 17. I think they're a contender for that one of those last 2 playoff spots. If they do get Butler, they go up a lot. 16. Speaking of Jimmy Butler, I have the Timberwolves. I've moved them down a little bit. Before I had them as my 8th seed, I believe. It was either my 7th or my 8th seed in my playoff predictions. I've actually knocked them out just because of this whole Jimmy Butler thing, because it does seem inevitable that he will be traded. I'm treating it right now as if he is on the team, but it's just questionable as to how much effort he's going to put in, how many games he'll actually even show up for, how healthy he is, how the rest of the locker room is going to react to this whole thing if or when he does come back. So, like Karl Anthony Towns is okay, but Wiggins seems like he's getting worse every year. They didn't really do too much with their offseason, so if they don't have Jimmy Butler, they're kind of stuck in a rut. Even if they do have him, it seems like the other teams in the West are getting better around them. So I don't really know what to do with the T-Wolves here. I've knocked them down a little bit. I have them at 16, and based on these projections, that means that they're going to miss the playoffs. But this all changes when they trade Jimmy Butler. I would presume that they would go way down because they would be getting draft picks back for him, but we'll see. 15, I have the Portland Trailblazers. This is my other team from the West that I think will miss the postseason. Just basically they didn't do anything in the offseason, and teams have kind of figured them out. Yes, they were the 3 seed last year, but it was really, really close. They were like 4 games out of missing the playoffs, and then they were the 3 seed. So, if you remember, those were really, really close last year. So, Portland, still with that backcourt, Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum. People keep asking them to trade, most likely McCollum, but one of the two. See what they can get back, because they need a little more balance on this team. They're paying a lot of guys a lot of money to do nothing. Nurkic is okay, but other than that, they have like nobody in the front court. So they're just kind of standing pat, trying to be like, oh, we can win a championship with this roster. CJ McCollum always acting like, man, we're totally title contenders. No, you're not. You honestly are not. You need something else. There needs to be a change in Portland. They need to do something, but they refuse to. So it doesn't look like they will this year, or really any year. But we'll see what happens with them. Right now, I think they're going to miss the postseason just because of how tough the West is. They're an okay team, but I don't see them being able to advance too far. Okay, so after this, these are all teams that I would consider locks. Well, maybe not locks, but very, very, very likely to make the playoffs. This isn't my next tier. Maybe I should have separated that. But yeah, from 14 on up, I think these are all very good teams. At 14, I have the Wizards. I think Washington, they had a rough season last year. John Wall missed a lot of games. They had chemistry issues, but trading away Marcin Gortat and adding Dwight Howard, Austin Rivers as well, Jeff Green, drafting Troy Brown, this team will look a little bit different. I think they made some improvements with their roster. Having John Wall healthy, Bradley Beal back as well, that should help them. But we'll have to see how this team ends up, because it's just hard for me to say. With the Washington Wizards, I don't really know what they're going to look like, their chemistry with Dwight Howard, these other guys who are going to come off their bench, how healthy John Wall will look, whether there will be tension in the locker room again. But right now, I would consider them almost playoff locks. There is a chance that they could miss. Obviously, with any team, if injuries happen, there will be struggles. But yeah, I think that's true for the Wizards as well. I have them at 14. 13, I have the New Orleans Pelicans. I've bumped them up just a little bit. Before I had them out of the playoffs, I've switched them with the T-Wolves. I just don't know. Anthony Davis is really good. Julius Randle is pretty good. Nikola Mirotic is also pretty good. Jrue Holiday is very good. So they have good players. It's just a question of what their lineups are going to look like, considering that 3 of their 4 best players all play like pretty much the same position. They all play power forward. Like Anthony Davis could play center, but realistically none of them can play small forward, so you're going to have to pick who you're going to start, Randall or Mirotic, and one of them comes off the bench, unless you go really big and start like Mirotic at small forward or something, which would be weird. But we'll just have to see what the Pelicans end up doing. I do think they're going to make the playoffs, though. I think they're they're better than I thought they were, even though I haven't seen much from them. But all I know is Anthony Davis is an MVP contender. So, yeah, he's really good. And you can't count the Pelicans out when they have Anthony Davis. After that, I have the San Antonio Spurs at number 12. DeMar DeRozan, kind of a new-look team. No Kawhi Leonard anymore. But basically this team, the reason that I think the Spurs are going to be so good is because last year they made the playoffs as a 7th seed in a really tough Western Conference, pretty much without Kawhi Leonard. He played like 9 games, but other than that, like he did not really help them at all. So it's now, instead of having an injured Kawhi Leonard, they have a healthy DeMar DeRozan, is the way that I look at it. Plus, they've also added Jakob Poeltl as a nice backup center. DeJounte Murray's looking better, even though I believe he is injured. He got a knee injury or something today. I think he's doing an MRI tomorrow. Hopefully it's nothing serious, but Lonnie Walker is out for about 6 to 8 weeks, which will hurt a little bit because he was projected to be, one of those nice rookies, one of the steals of the draft. But again, these Spurs, I think they're going to be good. Basically, just you're adding an all-star for free, because if you compare them to last season's team, when Kawhi didn't play, and now DeRozan is going to play, so I think they're going to be better. But that's just me. A lot of people, you can argue for the Spurs being lower, you could argue for them being higher, but I think this is a really good spot for them. 11th, I have the Denver Nuggets. I understand this might be a little high, but I think the Nuggets are good. They have a really, really nice starting five. Isaiah Thomas off the bench. Also Michael Porter Jr., assuming that he's healthy, good to go. We have Gary Harris, Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, Paul Millsap back healthy. All these guys, looking great. Denver, I think, is finally ready to take that next step and become like a real, good team. I think they're definitely going to make the playoffs this year after missing narrowly last season, and I believe they missed narrowly the year before that as well. So the Nuggets have been super close, but this is the year I think that they break in, and they have a chance to do some damage in the playoffs too. I think they have a chance at an upset if they get that 6 or 7 seed range. They have a chance to upset a team like the Lakers or the Rockets maybe, or the Jazz, but whatever. We'll get to that. Okay, next I have the Indiana Pacers as the last team in this category. I think the Pacers are very good. I think they're a top 4 team in the Eastern Conference. Top 4 maybe? 1, 2, 3. Top 5? I think they're top 5. Pacers are good. As I talked about before, I think they're very, very close to the next team I'm going to talk about. Victor Oladipo is really strong, as well as Tyreek Evans. I feel like they have a strong roster overall. They added a lot of nice pieces in the offseason. Kylo Quinn, other guys, Doug McDermott as well, drafting Aaron Holiday. So this team looks like it's coming together. They're building really well around Victor Oladipo, I think. They've added players that complement his strengths very nicely. They probably need just, I don't know, maybe a little more shooting. But we'll see what happens with Miles Turner if he takes the next step this year. We'll have to see what happens with these Pacers here. Okay, so that's it for that category. Next, so there's 9 teams left. And this next category, I have 4 teams in here, and it's called the Almost Contenders. These are teams that I think don't have a chance at winning the title. Well, maybe they have a very, very slim chance. Basically, I think there's only 9 teams that have a realistic quote-unquote, like realistic being like 1% chance or more of winning the NBA title next year. Obviously, I think it's going to be Golden State. Not just because this is a Warriors podcast, but because they're the best team in the league. Everyone pretty much has that assumption. But if something drastic were to happen with an injury, or if for some reason the Warriors get upset, these are all the teams that I think have at least some sort of chance to win the title. So here we go. Number 9, I have the Milwaukee Bucks. As I mentioned, I think they're very close to the Indiana Pacers. Just because of Giannis Antetokounmpo, I put them above Indiana, even though I think the Pacers have a better roster overall. But because the Bucks have Giannis, I put them higher. I think that the Bucks are very good. They've added nice players in the offseason with Brook Lopez. It seems like they're upgrading overall. Who else? What they draft? What's his name? Dante DiVincenzo, the point guard. Looks like they'll be better. And I think they're building around Giannis very well as well. They're adding shooting around him, and in preseason he showed a couple flashes of a 3-point shot, which would be really, really good. That's the next step for his game. But Giannis, again, he's an MVP candidate. This team, I think, is similar to the Pelicans in a lot of ways, where they have one really, really good player. I just think, for one, I think Giannis is better than Anthony Davis, and I think the Bucks have a better roster around him, and I think that they're in an easier conference. It's the Eastern Conference, so it's easier. I said a second ago that I think Giannis is better than AD. I don't know if that's true. That's a topic for another day, but I think they're very close. Moving on. 8, I have the Thunder. Oklahoma City. They've they've brought back Paul George, Russell Westbrook back again, as well as getting rid of Carmelo Anthony. That's a big deal. Adding Dennis Schroeder, a couple other guys, Nerlens Noel. This roster starting to come together a little more as Russ and PG-13 develop their chemistry a little bit better. Personally, I don't think you can go very far with Russell Westbrook as your point guard, but that's just me. They're okay. They're a top 4 team in the West, I think. 4? Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Top 5. I said that earlier and I was wrong. Top 5 team. Thunder are good. West is also good. This team, I don't know. I just don't know. If Russell Westbrook can change his habits a little bit, his passing habits and stealing rebounds and hunting triple doubles, and just kind of focus on being a team player and letting him and Paul George both be really good and both contribute to the team's success, I think they'll have a lot easier time. So yeah, there's them. Number 7, I have the Utah Jazz. I don't know. Don't ask me why I have the Jazz this high. I think they're better than OKC. Donovan Mitchell just amazes me every time I watch him play. Rudy Gobert is an amazing defender. They just have a good roster, good solid roster, top to bottom. This is pretty much the same exact team as last year. They drafted Grayson Allen and let go of Jonas Jerebko, and that's about it, I believe. I think the roster is like almost exactly the same. They brought back Derek Favors, as well as Ricky Rubio's back again, Joe Ingles. So they've got nice players, and they've all played together for at least 1 year now. A lot of these guys have played together for a long time, so they kind of know what they're doing at this point. But yeah, I have the Jazz up here. I think, barring a sophomore slump from Donovan Mitchell, the Jazz are going to be a top 4 team out west. Number 6, I have the Philadelphia 76ers. They're still good. Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Dario Saric, all these guys, Robert Covington. They still need to figure out what they're doing with their roster. They still have a ton of players, but yeah, they're just overall solid top to bottom. Really nice team. They're an almost contender. I don't think they can win the title this year, but I think they can come close. They are a top 3 team in the West, the East. So Sixers are good, but not quite good enough to have a really, really good chance at winning. Okay, so next, I have 4 teams in this next category. There's 5 left, and there's 4 in this next category. I bet you can guess who number 1 is. But this one is called Close But No. There's 4 teams here. I think that these teams if there is like a major injury on the Warriors, if there's an injury to Curry or Durant that ends this season, or if for some reason they play really poorly in a series and lose, these are the 4 teams that I would think have a chance at winning the title. 5, I have the LA Lakers. The LeBron James effect. Pretty much, there's not much to say about the Lakers that hasn't already been said. It's just hard to know how good this team's going to be before we see them play. Because they have LeBron James, they are a top 5 team in the NBA. That is just pretty much the facts at this point. They have nice young players as well as good veterans. So it's a nice mix. It'll be interesting to see how this works. Lack of three-point shooting, blah, blah, blah. All these things that people have beaten to death ever since LeBron has signed with this team. But yes, with Lonzo, Ingram, Kuzma, Josh Hart, as well as JaVale McGee, Lance Stevenson, Rondo, Michael Beasley, this will be a really interesting team to watch. It'll be super funny to see what kind of antics they do on the court. I'm really excited to watch the Lakers, even though I don't like the Lakers at all. I've never liked the Lakers, just as a team, I've never liked them. But I almost I don't know. I'm just excited to watch this team just because of all the weird people they have. It's LeBron James with all these kids and the NBA's sideshow crew. It's going to be so crazy. But I'm super excited to watch the Lakers play. So I have them as top 5 just because they have LeBron. That's it. 4, Toronto Raptors. This is weird. I don't know. Kawhi Leonard on the Raptors. Kyle Lowry. Kawhi's really good. Depends on how healthy he is. They have a good roster. Don't agree with firing Dwayne Casey, but we'll have to see how good Nick Nurse is as a coach. Other than that, it's pretty much going to depend on how healthy Kawhi is, how well he plays outside of Popovich's system. If he was a product of the Popovich system, or if he's actually just a really good player. We don't know the answer. Find out next time on Toronto Raptors basketball. We'll have to see. I have them at 4. They could easily be not this good, or they could easily be the second best team in the league. I don't know. We'll find out. I think 4 is a nice spot for them, though. 3. So these top 3 are, well, these next 2 I think are very close. But number 3, I have Houston. I have the Rockets, just because of the fact that they lost a lot of their best defenders and replaced them with Carmelo Anthony. Yeah, they lost Trevor Ariza, Mbamute, and signed Carmelo to replace them. Don't know how I feel about that. Carmelo's not a great defender, not a great team player. If he hogs the ball like he did in OKC, they're not going to have a good time. But if they can get him to buy in and kind of just be like a spot-up shooter, play off the ball a lot more, not demand ISO possessions every other time down the court, they can play really well with Chris Paul and James Harden, and then I think they'll be okay. But their problem is who's going to defend Kevin Durant in a playoff series, who's going to defend LeBron if they match up against the Lakers, who's going to defend Kawhi Leonard when they play the Raptors, who's going to defend Gordon Hayward and Jason Tatum if they play the Celtics. Like they have this problem at small forward where like they have a good defensive point guard. They have good backups defending at shooting guard. Harden's not a great defender, but a lot of their backups are okay. They have halfway decent power forwards. Clint Capella's a good defender, but at small forward they have Carmelo and PJ Tucker, who is too small to really bug anybody who's bigger than like 6'4". So I don't know. The Rockets are just weird to me. We'll have to see what ends up happening if their chemistry takes a nosedive, if their defense goes way down because they no longer have those guys. If Carmelo demands all these shots like he did in Oklahoma City, they're going to be in huge trouble. But right now I have them at 3, pending an implosion, which I feel like might happen. Number 2, Boston Celtics. They're very good. They could legitimately have 5 starting All-Stars. People always say that about the Warriors. Oh, they have 5 All-Stars. But like, if you look at the Celtics and you look at the Eastern Conference, like, think about this. Kyrie Irving, he'll be an All-Star. Jaylen Brown could potentially be an All-Star if he plays well. Gordon Hayward, if he's healthy, he'll be an All-Star. Jason Tatum, if he takes another step forward after a really good rookie season, he'll be an All-Star. Al Horford, if he doesn't decline after age like 31, he'll still be an All-Star. And then they have like good players off the bench in Terry Rozier, Marcus Smart. Also still have the Morris brother, Marcus Morris, I believe, or is it Markieff? I think it's Marcus. But yeah, they have really, really solid players. Celtics have a super deep team. Not really sure what their rotation looks like. They have a lot of wings who can play. We'll see what Brad Stevens ends up doing there. But, yeah, Celtics are very, very strong, and I expect them to be in the finals for sure. I think it'll be close between them and Toronto, but I definitely expect Boston to end up in the finals against Golden State. Spoiler alert, the Warriors have their own tier. I put this Warriors tier at the top because they're the Warriors, and everyone expects them to win the title. Obviously, I expect them to win the title. It's just going to be a fun season to watch, see how DeMarcus Cousins plays, integrated into their system. As well as, just another year. We just kind of got to enjoy this year, man, because we don't know what's going to happen after this season. I do expect Klay Thompson to come back, because of course I do. Obviously, I'm an optimist when it comes to stuff like this, but I do think Klay's going to resign. Based on all the interviews and stuff we've seen and stuff we know about Klay, there's no reason to believe he's going to leave. And then Kevin Durant is a little bit more unpredictable, but I do have a feeling he'll stay. When they offer him that $5 million or 5-year max contract, it'll be like, well, can you really say no to that? So I do feel like this won't be the last year of the Warriors' dominance over the NBA, but it potentially could be. So we just have to enjoy this year while we have it, enjoy this team while we can, see what Boogie brings to the table, as well as our young guys, developing our younger players for inevitably the future when all of our when Curry and Thompson, Green, Durant all get old and retire and stop being good anymore. We'll still have Jordan Bell, and we'll still have Kevon Looney and Damian Jones and all these nice guys. So we'll just have to see what happens with the Warriors' young players. But it'll be fun to see. It'll be a fun year to watch. Obviously, they are the best team in the league. But that's going to be it for today. Wow, that was a really long time. I've talked for like 40 minutes, and it's really late at night. and I have to be up early tomorrow. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So that's going to be it for DubsIn4 episode 12. Next week will be the last week before the season starts. If Jimmy Butler trade does happen this week, I will talk about that. If not, well, I'll think of something else. But yeah, and then following that, the season will be starting, and I'll have a lot more stuff to discuss. We might do like game recaps, kind of like I did for the preseason last week. Just talk about what's going on around the league, who's playing well, who's not playing well, what's surprising, stuff like that. So, thanks everybody for tuning in this week. This has been the DubsIn4 Podcast, and I'll see you guys next time.